I was involved in our young adult program that was a part of the LDS Church. And after graduating from high school, we had a special group that would meet together and do activities and just do some fun things. Well, we had decided that we were going to have an activity at East Canyon, a sleepover. We tried to do one really fun activity each year, and this event would be a overnight water skiing, camping experience that we would go on. We had adult leaders that went with us, and we had sent out assignments, and there were people that were in charge of the dinner for the first night, and then those that were in charge of entertainment and all kinds of things, and then those that were in charge for breakfast the next morning. We got up to East Canyon and got our tents all set up and had a lovely evening, great dinner and a program and fun time. But then we noticed that the person that was over the breakfast in the morning hadn't arrived. We thought, well, maybe they're going to come later. Maybe something came up. Maybe they'll just, show up later tonight. We'll be okay. If they don't show up, we got to make some plans. Well, as the activities came to a close and we were cleaning up, person still hadn't arrived. At that same time, we noticed that there was a souped-up truck that was driving around the camping ground, sort of checking everything out, kept circling around. Well, the leaders were very much aware of this, and so extra precautions were taken because we saw this truck was driving around with a man in it and wanted to make sure everybody would be safe and there'd be no problems. Well, we went to bed, didn't think much about it, and woke up early that next morning. We were all concerned, got together because the person hadn't shown up. It was about 4:30 when we woke up and were trying to decide what we were going to do for breakfast. We had all those people up there and the food hadn't arrived. I volunteered to run home. We actually had quite a bit of eggs at our house, and I knew that we had pancake mix and things like that that we could throw together. We had a group of about maybe 15 to 20 young adults there, and I knew that at my parents' home we had enough that we could throw together a breakfast. And since there really wasn't any store close by, because we were in a canyon area and the little town just below had a grocery store, but it opened up at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and I figured I could drive down the canyon, pick the things up at the house and be back up the canyon before even 7 in the morning. We had everything to cook with, we just didn't have the food. And so I got ready and took off. I was driving at the time a Fiat 124 convertible little Spider, the Fiat Spider. And it was cold in the morning, so of course I had the little cloth top up and the windows up, and I headed out of the campground real slowly. And as I was driving out and I got on the road, and it's a windy road that goes through the canyon, it was dark, I noticed that another vehicle pulled out of the campground just shortly after I left. And I thought, that's strange. I didn't see anybody around. It was so early. And didn't think much of it until the vehicle pulled up close behind me. And I could tell it was a truck. And I thought, okay, they must be in a hurry. They've been up there camping. They got to go to work on Saturday. I don't know. And so I just kept going the speed limit, which was about 35. And I tried to pull over to the side of the road. So if the truck wanted to go around me, he most certainly could go in the other lane. There wasn't any oncoming traffic. He just slowed down. And I thought, okay, maybe he's afraid, doesn't want to go around me. So I kept going, and he was right on my tail. And I thought, okay, I'm going to speed up a little bit, and maybe he'll get off my tail. Well, as I sped up, he speeded up. This was making me really nervous. He didn't let off. He just stayed right on my tail, way too close. And as I came through the little town, which was called Morgan, I'm like hoping that there might be a police officer somewhere in this little tiny town. It was early in the morning. I didn't even know where the police station was, because you'd come down out of East Canyon, you go through the city, and you get on the freeway. not a car anywhere. It was like everybody'd folded up the sidewalks and gone to bed and weren't getting up till 9 or 10 in the morning. Well, I thought, okay, once I get on the freeway, he can take off and go wherever he wants to if that's where he's going. I got on the freeway. He pulled up right behind me. And I thought, fine, I'll just go on the slow lane. He can go around. He pulled up behind me. And then he was like almost touching my bumper. And I thought, I've had this car up to over 125 miles an hour. And the speedometer goes to 140. So I hit the gas. And I'm going. Well, he's got a souped up truck. And he's meeting my speed. I'm up to 80. I'm up to 90. He's right on my tail. I'm up to 100 now. And he's still there. I hit 110. He's fallen back a little bit. I go to 120. He's there, but a little bit farther behind. I floor it. And just as I do, I pass one car on the freeway. I turn over, I look at him, I go, help me! They don't do anything. I thought, okay, I can outrun them. I'm just going as fast as I can, and then all of a sudden, when I floor it, my car just stops. I mean, it loses all power, everything. I'm going 125 miles an hour, and then my car just goes, woo! I mean, just no power at all. I pull over to the side of the freeway and slow down. And just as I do, his truck zooms past me. And the other cars were way ahead. Well, that's when it got real scary. He didn't even pull over. That big old souped up truck right in the middle of the freeway just stopped. And then flipped it in reverse and started coming back at me. I was over on the side of the road. My car was as dead as could be. I had no clue. I knew that I was not safe in that convertible. It was a cloth top convertible, and if you pressed on the windows, they just unrolled. So I hurried and got out and said a little prayer and opened up the hood. As I got out of the hood, he just parked his car next to mine in one of the lanes of the freeway. That's how cocky he was. As I'm sitting there looking and saying a prayer, I look down, and I know nothing about cars. And I see that there's a hose off. Instantaneously, I know where that hose is supposed to go. I pick the hose up, and I shove it on and squeeze it on as tight as I can. The man comes up and presses himself against my body and starts whispering in my ear and breathing real hard and saying all kinds of things. I knew I was in trouble. I knew what he wanted. And I was scared to death. I knew that this was not safe. It was still in the canyon area. I could be killed and rolled off to the side of the road or beaten up and nobody'd find me. I just turned to him and said, you know, this isn't a very good place. Why don't I just follow you? Well, he got all excited, jumped in his truck. And I said, I'll just stay right behind you. You go. We go down the freeway and I'm following him. And I'm just praying that that hose stays back on that car. As we get up to the only exit leading off into Ogden, he goes down the off-ramp. And just as he turns off, that car that I'd passed in the morning earlier and asked for help that he had ignored me, pulled off right behind him. That's when it hit. I've got to brake. Don't turn off. Just stay on the road and keep going. Well, I did, and by the time he realized that I wasn't following him, he couldn't back up. And the freeway on-ramp was out and about. He had to turn around. It wasn't an easy get back on. He had to go out of his way and turn around and then come back on. And in that time, I just went as fast as I could, not over 100, and got off the freeway the moment that I could. I got home. I was so shaken. My parents came out and wanted to know what had happened, and I told them. We called the police. I never made it back up to make sure that the breakfast was there. Scariest day? your life flashes before your eyes, and you're just very thankful that at that particular time, prayer was answered and you were safe.